Listen to the echo across the practice facility. If you've ever stood on the edge of the grass in late July, you know exactly what that sound is. That isn't just noise. That is the undeniable sound of livelihoods on the line. When you step onto that turf, all those pristine reputations you built during spring OTAs, they mean absolutely nothing. We are diving deep into Day 5 of the Indianapolis Colts 2026 training camp, and let me tell you, the temperature has officially skyrocketed. The shorts are gone, the grace periods are completely over. We are taking you straight into the trenches, where raw off-season potential is violently tested by actual physical reality. Welcome to the Crucible.
Look, we really need to dive into this transition because it is arguably the most jarring shift in all of professional sports. For the first 4 days of camp, what we saw was essentially a heavily controlled, heavily monitored ramp-up period. Helmets only, the defense literally isn't allowed to truly strike, and the offense gets to operate in this beautiful, pristine, untouched bubble. And you know how it goes in that environment. Every running back looks like an explosive superstar, every offensive lineman looks impenetrable, and every receiver looks completely uncoverable. But when those pads finally come on, the illusions shatter, instantly. Real football is back. Day 5 is when we find out who actually put in the brutal, lonely work during the dark months of the offseason. It's the exact moment when the speed of the game collides with the brutal force of impact. And right out of the gate, the Colts coaching staff clearly wanted to send a message. They demanded physicality, and well, they got it immediately.
And honestly, nothing brilliantly illustrates the sheer violence of this padded reality better than this. Picture this cinematic collision in slow motion for a second. You have rookie linebacker C.J. Allen, highly touted 53rd overall pick, stepping onto the field after missing the first few days while nursing a tweaked calf. So naturally, there were questions floating around. Questions about his conditioning, his readiness, his sheer willingness to engage. On the other side of the ball, you have Quentin Nelson, a multi-time All-Pro, a pure, terrifying mauler, a man who literally makes his living breaking the absolute will of defenders. On a pulling play where the lineman loops behind the line to lead the block, Nelson led the charge. We're talking about a 330-pound freight train coming right at the rookie. Most rookies hesitate. They brace for impact. C.J. Allen, he did not. He triggered downhill, diagnosed the play instantly, and met Nelson squarely at the line of scrimmage with a sickening thud. It was such a quick, forceful trip to the point of attack that the play was instantly blown dead. The impact was so profound, so technically sound, that Quentin Nelson himself immediately walked over and congratulated the rookie. Think about that. When an all-pro guard goes out of his way to tell a rookie linebacker he respects his strike on day 1 of pads, that is a massive foundational moment for a young defense.
Moving into Section 1, the quarterback's total command.
Okay, we absolutely have to talk about the tension and the incredibly high stakes surrounding starting quarterback Daniel Jones returning to the field. Look, returning from a late-season Achilles tear is historically devastating for a quarterback. It's not just a leg injury. It destroys the entire power base you need to plant, to drive the football, and to follow through on your mechanics. Furthermore, it creates this massive mental hurdle. Trusting that surgically repaired foot while 300-pound defensive tackles are actively falling at your legs, that takes immense courage. Yet through 5 practices, Jones has shown total, unwavering command of head coach Shane Steichen's offense. Now actually, scratch that. He hasn't been uncorking 50-yard bombs just yet. In fact, his depth of target is heavily concentrated in the 0 to 10-yard range. But within that specific framework, his surgical precision is something to behold. He is operating with the exact kind of high-level efficiency this coaching staff demands. He's distributing the ball flawlessly underneath, proving that his lower body mechanics are totally in sync. This seamless return to form is, quite frankly, a monumental sigh of relief for the entire organization.
But here's the thing. Jones isn't just out there throwing against air. The absolutely crucial context here is who he is executing against. The Colts have assembled a suffocating, terrifying cornerback trio in Sauce Gardner, Charvarius Ward Sr., and Justin Wally. Going up against a receiver rotation of Josh Downs, Ashton Dulin, and Nick Westbrook-Iking, this elite secondary has rarely lost their positioning. It's been pass breakup after pass breakup. What makes this so fascinating is that classic iron sharpens iron dynamic. When Daniel Jones drops back in the pocket, he knows the window to fit the ball in is microscopic. Sauce Gardner doesn't give you inches, let alone yards. Charvarius Ward plays with this gritty, punishing physicality that reroutes receivers instantly off their spots. If Jones is slightly late or just slightly off target, it's a turnover, period. The fact that the Colts offense has managed to execute successfully in that heavily contested 0 to 10-yard range against this specific caliber of defensive backs, that tells us that the offensive rhythm is undeniably real.
Section 2, the trench and backfield wars.
Now we get to the gritty, unforgiving positional battles that simply cannot be evaluated when guys are running around wearing shorts. Because behind every great workhorse running back, you need an insurance policy. Jonathan Taylor is obviously the undisputed star of this backfield. But the battle for RB2 between rookie Seth McGowan and second-year back DJ Giddens has been fraught with serious tension. During the unpadded first week, frankly, both players looked completely lost in the passing game. Giddens and McGowan struggled with brutal, unforced drops, and in Steichen's offense, this is a massive deal. If the running back can't be a reliable checkdown option, the entire scheme basically breaks down. Entering day 5, Jonathan Taylor was bearing way too much of the burden, and the coaching staff was searching desperately for one of these backups to emerge from the shadows and grab the mantle.
And this brings us to the ultimate proving ground. The absolute second the pads went on, the momentum of this battle violently swung entirely in one direction. Seth McGowan seized the day. He didn't just show up, he took the lion's share of the second-team reps. He finally showcased soft hands, successfully catching those crucial swing passes out of the backfield that were giving him so much trouble earlier. But more importantly, he demonstrated the raw, physical, downhill, inside rushing that this coaching staff demands when relieving a bruiser like Taylor. McGowan proved he isn't afraid to stick his nose right into the A-gap, that brutal, claustrophobic space between the center and the guard, take a massive hit, and still churn his legs for those dirty, hidden yards. Now Giddens is a solid zone rusher, sure, but in the brutal reality of padded practice, McGowan's sheer force made him the undeniable frontrunner for the RB2 job.
Moving over to the defensive line, we have a fascinating stylistic contrast brewing at defensive end opposite the lethal Laiatu Latu. It's a real clash of philosophies. On one side, you have the seasoned veteran Arden Key. Key is currently dominating the first-team reps by doing all the unglamorous, dirty work, setting a heavy, immovable edge in run defense, forcing the play back inside where the linebackers can eat. On the other side, you have second-year edge defender Jalen Tuimoloau. Tuimoloau is the Flash. He's the lightning to Key's thunder, racking up 3 would-be sacks in pass rush situations during the first week alone. So it sets up a classic dilemma for the defensive staff. Do you prioritize the early down stability and run-stopping reliability of a guy like Key, or do you gamble on the explosive, game-wrecking pass rush upside of Tuimoloau? Right now, neither man is backing down an inch.
You know, the ripple effects of these padded practices are completely reshaping the depth chart as we speak. Just look at defensive tackle. Colby Wooden, who, if you remember, was acquired in that massive offseason trade for Zaire Franklin, is proving to be the absolute most underrated acquisition of the year. Lining up alongside Adetomiwa Adebore, Wooden is completely dominating the interior, turning what we thought was a projected weakness into a terrifying strength. At linebacker, while C.J. Allen is out there making highlight reel hits, fellow rookie Bryce Betcher is quietly and methodically seizing his moment, stealing a massive chunk of first-team reps. And back at safety, the veteran Akeem Davis-Geither is rotating heavily with the first unit. The message from the coaching staff couldn't be clearer. Draft pedigree and past contracts mean nothing right now. The players who produce when the pads pop are the players who will play on Sundays.
Section 3. Down to the wire.
As we escalate the tension in this training camp narrative, we have to look at one of the closest, most nerve-wracking offensive battles on the roster. The WR3 position in today's NFL is practically a starting role, and this shootout is just phenomenal to watch. Ashton Doolin came out of veteran minicamp with a clear, established early lead. We know him. He's a known commodity, a special teams ace with explosive straight-line speed who knows the building inside and out. But as the sheer physicality of camp has ramped up, veteran newcomer Mick Westbrook-Ikhine has fiercely closed that gap. Westbrook-Ikhine brings this gritty, physical blocking element to the perimeter, along with an incredibly savvy understanding of zone coverage. As these two face that elite secondary of Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Ward every single day, the receiver who can handle the physical press coverage and maintain precise timing with Daniel Jones is going to win this job. Right now, it is a dead heat.
Section 4. A flawless kicking shootout.
We are going to treat this kicker battle with the exact same gravity as a quarterback duel. Why? Because, quite frankly, it decides games just as often. 6 for 6. When the pressure was at its absolute highest during his individual kicking day, Blake Group stepped onto the turf and delivered absolute, flawless execution. In a league where guys literally lose their jobs over a single missed kick in August, perfection is the only currency that matters.
And listen, it wasn't just a bunch of chip shots. Track the trajectory of this day with me. He drills the 25-yarder, then the 33, the 39. The tension builds in the facility as he moves back to 45. Then from 51 yards out, right down the absolute middle. Finally, the massive, booming 57-yard kick to cap off a flawless session. The context here is just brutal, though. His competitor, Spencer Schrader, had already missed a 50-yarder earlier in camp. Group watched that miss, internalized it, and responded by going perfect from every single distance, capping it all off from 7 yards deeper than Schrader's miss. It's straight-up psychological warfare. And right now, Blake Group is the heavy, heavy favorite to win this job. Section 5, the final roster countdown.
Zooming out to the macro perspective for a minute, every single one of these padded practices is a ticking countdown clock. We are connecting these individual, highly granular battles to the brutal reality of the business. Final roster cuts are looming, and incredibly difficult decisions are going to have to be made by this front office. Just look at the unresolved, utterly fascinating battle for the backup quarterback spot behind Daniel Jones. You essentially have two entirely different football philosophies going head-to-head. On one side, the fourth-year enigma, Anthony Richardson. He is explosive, boasting rare physical traits that can literally break a game wide open, but he remains incredibly volatile and hot and cold on a snap-to-snap basis. On the other side, you've got second-year QB Riley Leonard. Leonard isn't going to throw a 70-yard frozen rope down the sideline, but he provides a steady, reliable, calculated consistency in the underneath passing game. It's the ultimate coaching dilemma. Think about it. If disaster strikes and your starter goes down in the middle of a playoff push, do you want the high-ceiling wildcard who might throw 3 touchdowns or 3 picks? Or do you want the high-floor game manager who will execute the base offense without catastrophic mistakes?
Which brings us to the ultimate open loop of this entire training camp. We've seen rookies blast seasoned veterans. We've seen kickers launch 57-yard daggers to secure their livelihoods. We've seen a surgically repaired quarterback methodically dissect an elite secondary. But here's the crazy part. The preseason games haven't even kicked off yet. When the dust finally settles, when that last whistle blows in August, who will actually survive these brutal final cuts? Will the explosive upside of a player like Richardson win out, or will steady hands prevail across the board?
The consequences of these battles will absolutely echo throughout the entire 2026 season. If you want more deep dive explainers breaking down the harsh realities of the roster, make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus. Hit that like button and let us know your thoughts on the backup QB battle down in the comments. Consider supporting the channel by becoming a member as well. The pads are on, the hits are very real, and the stakes have never been higher. We'll see you in the next explainer.